It seems like whenever the topic of free speech is discussed, or argued about, it's almost always in a legal context. Free speech was recently discussed on this channel in an argument against the idea, or the concept, of hate speech. There was a particular counter-argument that kept popping up in the comment section, which is, simply put, that free speech is only compromised if the government infringes on it. And the reason why a lot of people made this point was because they thought that the three examples cited at the beginning of the video were bad examples. Now this is, of course, true. Only the government can infringe upon the right of free speech. Private entities can establish any limits they want. So this is a good argument in and of itself. But the reason why it's not a good counter-argument is because it doesn't address the thesis of this video. Speech was discussed in a legal context, but it was really just for the sake of clearing up any misunderstanding as to whether or not the First Amendment protects hate speech. Beyond that, it was really just a stepping stone to get to the main focus of the argument. And the main focus of the argument was not speech in a legal context, but rather speech in a philosophical context. The concept of hate speech, the concept of free speech, and how they relate to one another. The simplest way to summarize the argument made in this video would be to say that you can endorse the concept of free speech and throw hate speech under the bus simultaneously. If free speech includes hate speech, claiming to support one but not the other is inconsistent. And this is why these three examples were cited. It wasn't to make the case that it's illegal to disinvite someone or that we have a right to tweet. The argument was that the idea, the concept of free speech encompasses hate speech. So if you endorse the idea and support the practice of free speech, only to make a giant exception, you've contradicted your position on the issue. Now, some people have argued that, for instance, when the Northeast Yada Yada claimed to believe strongly in freedom of speech, that was really just their way of saying that the First Amendment exists, and that they're glad it exists. Now that's kind of a goofy way of interpreting that. Imagine if your next-door neighbor said to you, "While I believe strongly in the Fourth Amendment and everyone's right to privacy, what color is your underwear?" Your neighbor's just saying, hey, we have the Fourth Amendment. They can still inquire about your undergarments, but there's still something fishy about that. When people say that they believe strongly in something, it usually means that they think it's a good idea, that it's a good blueprint for their life, and they aspire to embody it. So again, when somebody claims to believe in the expression of all views, but not these views, the reasoning is inconsistent. And this was the main argument that was being made. Now, if you still find this argument to be unreasonable, hey, okay, by all means, make a counter-argument. Just make sure that you're addressing speech in a philosophical context and not in a legal context. Because Twitter isn't the government, you've still got your rights. That's not addressing the argument made in this video.